Welcome to this video. Today we'll talk with Amit Mondal about OSGi.fx. Amit is a software engineer who is working at the Smarthome project of Deutsche Telekom called Qivicon. But I met Amit when I helped him move to Bndtools. Amit did a lot of the heavy lifting in that project, and since then we're good friends. Amit is a long-time committer on Eclipse Kura, and like me, he just loves software. Unlike me, he's also a football aficionado. When the Smarthome project got in more tranquil waters after the move to Bndtools, he started to look around for new OSGi adventures. We'll talk today about the amazing OSGi.fx management agent that he developed in his spare time. So let's take a look.
Sure. Thanks a lot. First of all, I would really like to thanks Peter for giving me the opportunity to talk about or to present OSGi.fx. It really means a lot to me. And I strongly believe that the application I'm going to show today, the OSGi.fx application, could be proven very much useful to all the OSGi users out there who want a kind of graphical interface to manage the OSGi runtimes directly. So that's what I'm going to do today. So without much ado,
I must say I'm really looking forward to this because it is by far the best management agent I've seen. It uses a lot of graphics based on JavaFX. It's very cool. So
yeah, thanks a lot. It's kind of a learning process to me to know about JavaFX and how things can be integrated together to make it work and to make it what it is today. So yeah, without much ado, let's start with the kind of live demo. So today I'll be showing you the whole application from start to the end to show you to get you a kind of look and feel how it works, and you can also start with it, start using it as well. Okay, so this is how it looks. So when you get it installed, then you get to see this kind of application here. So this is the icon that I have used for this kind of packaging. So that shows it's a bundle. So that's why I've chosen this one. So this is the application, how it looks like. And just to give you an overview of the technologies involved here. So this OSGi.fx application is itself built on OSGi. It uses OSGi R8 specification, the recently released one. And it's built on Java 17. It uses JavaFX 19 right now. It's not LTS, but still it's using JavaFX 19. And I'm a fan of, just to talk about the workspace that I'm using, since it introduces it, I have included the integration of Eclipse 4 RCP as well. And you probably know that once you are into Eclipse 4 RCP, or you're doing all the RCP things that Eclipse provides, all the Eclipse functionalities, then you have to use Eclipse PDE. That's not the real case here. Even though I'm using Eclipse RCP, I'm using Bndtools workspace because I'm a fan of Bndtools. It provides lots of functionalities.
yeah, me too. How you got here?
So that's the reason, to be frank, I'm using Bndtools here. And for the agent, means the bundle that you'll be installing in your runtime for the management purposes, like for your remote runtime, probably the OSGi runtime that you have, that you want to remotely manage. There you have to install a bundle called agent. We call it agent. So that agent bundle is completely built on Java 8. So that's the minimum requirement. And then it needs Java OSGi R6. So the minimum requirement, it needs OSGi R6. And yeah, nothing much. You have to configure.
You can basically install it on almost any running framework today.
Yeah, exactly.
How big is it?
Yeah, pardon?
How big is it?
The agent is around 500 kilobyte.
Okay.
Not that much, but yeah, I'm trying to reduce that amount of functionality. So I've included lots of functionality, so that's why it has become a little bit, more in size. But I'm trying to reduce it or compress the things that I don't need. As still, lots of functionality that I've added there is really useful. So that's why I kept it there. That's why it's around 500 kilobyte right now. So yeah, lots of information regarding the technologies involved here. Just for the information, the packaging. And what I want to do is I want to configure it for the runtime that I want to manage. So this is the workspace that we use in Telecom here. And for the configuration, what I want to do is, it's also based on Bndtools, by the way. So here I have added the agent here, agent jar, and added it to the run bundle section. That means I want this bundle to be installed, so you can do it in your own runtime, whatever you have. Probably can use something else other than Bndtools. So here,
is it available on Maven Central?
Not yet. I'm using GitHub packages, but yeah, very soon I'll be deploying it to the Maven Central as well. Okay. But you can still use GitHub packages to consume it directly.
Do you have to configure a new repository?
Yeah, that I have to. So for the only configuration that I have to provide is the OSGi.fx agent port, but that's what the configuration is. So this is the only configuration you need. And since the agent only requires OSGi core R6, that means it only has the dependency to the system bundle. It does not have any dependency to others. So if you have the bundles, for other specifications like config admin, they are optional. If you don't have them, it will still work.
That's good.
So if I start the application now, then just a sec, give it a little bit of time to get started. Yeah, it has been started. So now I have already opened the application. So here what you have to do is you have to go to connection, connect to the remote agent. So that's the one. And here you have to add the configuration because you don't have any configuration connection parameters ready for it. And now I'm managing a runtime which has been started in my local host, and that's the port and the timeout, probably 200 milliseconds. Save it. So the connection has been added successfully, and go to remote agent once again. You have to choose your connection parameters. Click on OK.
There we get the info.
Yeah. Once the connection is successfully established, now you get to see the overview of the whole runtime. So the overview generally includes the runtime information, the framework information, how many bundles you have, how many services you have, the different number of components, how many threads you have, the JVM memory consumption percentage. So that's really important sometimes, to see if something is consuming more than usual. The JVM allocated memory is also happening in real time, and the update in the uptime. So it's also important for how long the runtime is running on. So
you guys are a heavy user of the components, I see. 900.
Yeah, true. And from the 923 services, you see that we have 855 components. So that means most of the services we have are all service components, mostly. Okay. Let's get started with the different tabs. So different tabs are the different informations you need for for managing the runtimes. So for example, bundles, packages, services, and components, all the different informations are in different tabs. So if you want to manage, you're going to go to see what are the bundles you have in your runtime. You go to bundles tab, and then you get to see all the information. The overview, it lists all the bundles and sorted by symbolic name, version, and a different state. You get to see its ID associated with it. And then for further information, you just have to expand it and get to see the information of each and every bundle. And of all the information you see, you want to see for a bundle, all the information, like what are the different services it has, what are the different bundles it wired to as provider or as require even. So all the information you need. It also even calculates the start time. So that means how much time it needs to start to get the bundle started. For example,
I just have a question. Does it also show any diagnostics? Because in the web console, you sometimes get red information if there is something wired wrong, or at least indicating some problem.
Yeah, exactly. You get to see all this information if you get to see all this information once it has a different state, because I'm currently using all the OSGi API to get to know all the information if something is also wrong. So all this information can also be shown here. And nice. Apart from that, you can also manipulate the state of the bundle, because sometimes it's probably resolved, it's not yet started because you don't want it to be started automatically by default. So it can also start the bundle, stop it, uninstall the bundle accordingly using this, these buttons. So these buttons are for manipulating the state of the bundles or just uninstalling it completely. And it's also sometimes important to get to see what are the packages you have in your runtime. So what are the imported packages, exported packages you have in your runtime. You get to see You probably want to see if they are kind of duplicate expos. Probably one package has been exported by one bundle, and that package has been also exported by another bundle, which leads to different wirings for different bundles. So that's why duplicate exports are really important to at least find out if there are any duplicate exports available in your runtime and fix it accordingly.
Is it possible to sort it by name?
Yes, you can click on the name.
Oh, that's nice. Yeah.
Yeah. So similarly, the UIs are pretty consistent, pretty much consistent. So you get to see here all the information relevant by expanding one entry and get to see the important information like who the exporters are for this package and who the importers of this package are. So all these informations are available here. And apart from that, you can also, since the UIs are consistent, you can make a right click and get to see them and then filter it, based on, let's say, cryo, and then you get to see the information here. It's filtered.
Very nice.
And then moving on to the services, we have lots of services. This is kind of the core component. You have bundles, you expose services. The cohesive work, the task it does, the services. So here you get to see all the services you have in a runtime or what have been exported to the OSGi service registry. And here you see that some entries are colored, some entries are non-colored. So there is a notion of finding out what it does. So what I have done is done here that if you find the non-colored entries, they are the low-level services. So they don't have any associated service components. So they have not been exported from the service component.
They don't have what kind of component?
Service components. So they have not been exported from the service components. So they are not service components. They are simple low-level services.
Okay.
Simple low-level services, OSGi services. But the colored ones are the services which have associated service components. Means so they have been exported from service components. So they are service components. So here you get to see, if you expand the entries, then you get to see the important information for a service. For example, what how the properties are, what the registered object classes are. And because, since they are services, they are implementing some kind of interface definitely. So what those information, so all those kind of important information can be found here. And the registering bundle symbolic name, registering bundle ID. So all the important information for a service. But here you don't get to see the component specific information. If you just expand one of the components, so this is also a service component, but here still you get to see only the service related properties. But moving on to the components, so here that would only work if you have SCR bundle installed. If you have SCR installed, then you can also inspect all the components you have in your runtime. So here, similarly, the UIs, as I mentioned, the UIs are pretty much consistent. You expand one of the entries, then you get to see the important information of the components. And sometimes what happens is, in kind of activation phase, probably some exception has been thrown. So it will have a different state, failed activation state instead of active or instead of other state. So because it has thrown any kind of exception, so you get to see the failure here and then further inspect what that problem is.
You get the exception there?
Yeah, you get the exception there here. And here you get to see all the important information that you need for inspecting the service component. So for references, you can expand the entries and then get to see all the important information for the different references you have. All the bound services, unbound services, all the important information that you want to know for a service component to be inspected. Similarly, you also have the possibility to change the state of the service components by enabling it, disabling it based on what the current state of the component is. Next, moving on to the configurations. Here, similarly, this will only work if you have config admin bundle installed, and then you get to see all the different configurations you have in your runtime. So here you see all the different configurations according to the PID and the factory PID. You get to see the configurations you have in your config admin. So for example, the generic properties will be PID, factory PID, and the bundle location, and the specific properties would be the configuration you have in the config admin. But there could be a possibility that you don't have any configuration, but you have the possibility to create the configuration because you have the meta-type descriptor available for this. So here, if you go around here, so these colored ones are the ones which have not been created yet. I probably colored it red. They have associated properties, meta types. If you expand one of the entries, then you get to see the different properties associated, attribute descriptions, and based on the attribute type or attribute definition type, the proper control will be selected. Since this response wait timeout uses long time, it used a control for the long. So you cannot use, if you put this, then it's red, so you cannot save it anymore. So that's happening automatically. So all this information, all those things are.
This is all derived from meta type.
Everything is derived from the meta type. All this information is derived from the meta type, and based on that, it's doing all the magic for you. Now, if you have event admin installed in a runtime, you can intercept the events what has been triggered or what has been posted to the event admin. So here you get to see all the events, but this is not enabled by default. You have to enable it. Actions, you have to go to actions, then click on start receiving events, then you have to specify the topic you are interested in. So let's say that I'm currently interested in all the topics. That's why I use the wildcard here, the star. Then here, as soon as any event is triggered, then or sent or posted, then you get to see it here. You expand one of the entries, then you get to see when it is received at, the topic, and the different associated properties from the event. So this is how you'll be able to intercept all the events directly. You can stop it if you don't need it. You can clear the logs and clear the events as well. And yeah, everything you can do. Similarly, if you go to the logs, if you have the log bundle installed, then all the logs will appear here. You have to enable it as well. It is also not enabled by default. This is a really consuming operation, memory consuming operation. So that's why I have not enabled it by default. You can also enable it if you want to visit, you want to display all the logs. So start displaying the logs, then the logs will appear directly here.
Can you set the level?
Yes, that's a different. So I'm coming. So the next point would be that one. How to change that level. So in till OSGi R6, you cannot do anything. You cannot change the levels directly from here. Even though the agent requires OSGi R6 as the base requirement, it can still manipulate and use OSGi R7. So it's using different magic, using reflection to access OSGi R7. Why I'm talking about R7? Because in R7 there is a new logging specification or logger specifications where you can change the log levels for a bundle. So you can do that. So if you have OSGi R7 log bundle installed, then you would be able to change the log levels of the respective bundles here. So here for all the bundles will be listed, and you get to see if they have any custom log levels. We have some custom log levels here. So I'm going to filter them out. So these are the log levels we have currently. And if you, let's say, go to faster XML, then you get to see the log levels we have configured so far. And then if you click on it, then you get to change the log level based on what the log level would be, change it, and then save it.
I think I know somebody that is gonna really like this function.
That's really cool, because sometimes you might need to manipulate the log levels in the runtime, so that in the runtime you don't have to update some kind of bundles directly. You just manipulate it in the config admin, and then everything plays together all along.
Very nice.
Okay, moving on to the properties. It is also sometimes really important to inspect the properties we have, be it framework property, be it a system property. You still need to inspect it. So here, all the framework properties and the system properties will be listed. Okay, now comes a really important one, which is the threads. So in the threads tab, you can monitor all the threads you have currently and associated the states. And here you get to see all the important information. There is one tab I have included which is really important, because that's not really easy to do, is just to find out whether a thread is deadlocked. So that kind of thing you can also find out here. Whether you find any thread which has been deadlocked, then you get to see that thread and then further inspect it by taking a heap dump, and then find out why the thread is blocked. All this information can be done later on.
Are you using JMX for that, or did you write your own?
Yes.
Yeah.
No. JMX for that. But it's also optional. If you don't have JMX installed, definitely that will not work. The is deadlocked will be completely empty, so you don't get to see whether it's deadlocked or not.
Now that's sometimes really, really interesting to know when your system hangs.
Yeah, exactly. That's the reason we have. I have actually thought of including whether the thread is deadlocked. Okay, now moving on to another important one is the graph one. So it's pretty straightforward. you already got it why we have a graph for it, because sometimes it's really necessary to find out the dependencies with different bundles. If you go to the bundles, then you have lots of customized operation here. Here you can select a subset of bundles and then find out the dependencies between them, but in a different manner. So let's say that you want to find, so here it's plain text, find, so I want to find bundles that are required by, let's say, Guava and the Protobuf. That's it. And I generate it. So this is how you can find all the bundles that are required by the selected bundles. And then there's other way around. They select all. I want to find all bundles that require the selected one. So let's say Guava. So this is how you'd be able to find out dependencies between the different bundles in different manners.
So you only have 2 bundles that use Guava?
Exactly, and we have to
impressive
to get rid of them. Yeah.
Yes, good. I like that.
So that's pretty cool. Okay, and as I showed you earlier, that you can also be able to find out the dependencies between the components. So for that, view, once again, I closed it, view graph, select component. Then here all the components will be listed, and here as per the similar logic, you would be able to select a subset of the components and find out the dependencies between them. Let's say I want to find all the components that are required by, let's say, configuration reader, or let's say DMP service. So this is the graph. We also have the component cycles. If you click on find all component cycles and generate, you'll be able to find all the component cycles, how that cycle is generated, how the cycle is linked, and what it leads to. So you'll be able to find out some of the component cycles which are really, really bad. Okay, so GoGo. So what do you have? Why do you have GoGo? Because we are showing we are working on some kind of GUI application. There's no need of Go. But to be frank, no. GoGo is quite advanced. Any kind of GUI application cannot provide. Quite advanced. So no application can provide such kind of features. So that's the reason I thought it's better to have GoGo's shell, remote GoGo shell. So what it does is you can execute any GoGo command and it will be executed directly in the remote runtime, and you get to see the result here. If you execute the normal usual GoGo commands like scr list, you get to see it's an auto completion that it shows you the command itself, and then you'd be able to execute it directly. But for some things, the advanced features like I want to get the bundle context of the system bundle, then this is how you'd be able to do it. You see that all the GoGo commands work properly. So this is how you'd be able to remotely execute GoGo commands for advanced functionalities. Okay, moving on to terminal remote shell commands. For example, I have to find out what other processes we have. So that's how you'd be able to execute remote shell. This works irrespective of which platform you're using. It can work on Linux, Mac, or Windows as well. So it will be able to execute all the things, all the commands you have. Well, I have another feature known as heap. So from this view, we'll be able to monitor your heap. You can start it, and then you'd be able to monitor the heap, the Eden space, the survivor space, and the old gen as well. So all the information is provided using GMX. You can manually execute garbage collect. You see that spike here. So that means the garbage collection has been happened. So this is how you'd be able to monitor your heap live. That's pretty cool. And sometimes if you feel that something is not right, something is not in order, you see some discrepancy here, so you can click on heap dump, and the heap dump will be created, and then you'll be able to get the heap dump from, or retrieve the heap dump from the remote machine, and then later analyze it in different profilers like Yorkit profiler or Eclipse memory analyzer tool, and then further investigate if something is not right. So this is how you can investigate the memory as well. Now HTTP. So what do you have to do for? Because sometimes in your runtime you need HTTP components. So for example, in our runtime we have lots of HTTP components. We are using HTTP spec for that. The HTTP whiteboard, to be frank. So for the whiteboard, you have lots of different whiteboard components like different servlets, different filters, error pages. So here, even though they are service components, you'll still be able to see them in the components view. But here I have provided a separate view so that you'll be able to see them separately. So they are not mixed with each other. And then based on the proper type, you would be able to see or inspect the different components like servlets, filters, and if you expand them, and then you get to see the patterns. The servlet pattern it provides, the service ID, if it has any kind of information, all the information, the diagnostic servlet, authorization servlet, so all the information it provides. Okay, next health checks. This is not part of the spec, but Felix health checks, you probably heard of.
Felix, when you say Felix, the Apache project.
Yeah, exactly. The Apache Felix project has one sub-project known as Apache Health Check, Apache Felix Health Check, which enables you to introduce your health check in a whiteboard manner, and then health checks will be picked up based on the names and the tags, and you can execute them on demand whenever you want it. You can schedule them as well based on different names and tags, different cron. You can assign crons to them so that they'll be executed at that point of time based on the configuration you provide. So we are using Felix health checks quite a lot. And that's why all the Felix health checks they have been listed here. You can, get them list them by names. You can list them by tags as well. And you can also, select one of the, subset of the Felix health check components, and then execute them, and then you get to see the result. So this is how I'll be able to execute Felix health checks on demand. And next we have the leaks. It's quite important to understand, why have I provided the leaks and why the leaks for OSGi, because when you're using OSGi, then it's OSGi provides you or enables you to update the components dynamically in your runtime. So that means if you have a live system, then you can update the bundles, respective bundles dynamically. And it's quite common that it turns out that developers are not aware that when they are updating the bundles, how much references they leave behind. And once you leave your references behind while updating the bundle, so that leads to class loader leaks. So that's why it's really important to get to have an overview if you have any kind of class loader leaks available in your runtime. So I'll just show you or replicate this to understand it better. So let's go to OSGi.fx, workspace here. So this is the OSGi.fx workspace based on Bndtools. And I have created one sample project to make you understand this. And it's quite, pretty easy to understand. So I have a component, and it is using a scheduled executor service. And during the activation phase, it instantiates the executor, and then it schedules the operation, the task. What it's doing, the task is simple. Let's say it is printing 1 and every 2 seconds, and it's built, since it's built on, it's based on Bndtools, it's built here. And now what I'm going to do is I'm going to go to, let's go somewhere, actions, then install update bundle here. I drag it here, and then I want the bundle to be started. The start level doesn't matter for us right now. Install. So bundle is installed. So now we'll go to view bundles and search for the leak. So you get to see that bundle is active currently. Now what it does, so you see that in the remote runtime, it is every 2 seconds is printing leaking component 1. Now let's say that I want to update the bundle. So let's say 2. So in that case, the bundle is automatically updated. Actions, install update bundle, drag it in, and then I don't have to start bundle because it's already started. So it's updated. Now let's see what it is doing. You see that it's printing the leaking component 1 and leaking component 2 both, because the executor that has been created earlier, the thread that has been created earlier by the executor is still alive. It's still not, it's not gone. It's still there. So that's why the previous resource that you have used by creating the thread, it is still getting consumed. It's still actually, the thread is consuming lots of memory because it's still active. So that's why you have already introduced a class loader leak here. And now if you go to the leak, then you get to see where the class loader leak is. Now you know that the leak is there, it's existent in the runtime. So you have to go to the heap. You can take the heap dump. The heap dump is generated, get the heap dump, retrieve from the remote runtime, and then analyze it. Now you have also different options, as I showed you earlier. You can install update bundle. You can also generate the OBR from the remote runtime. You can get the XML retrieved directly here. And then you can also add a new configuration. And finally, there's a new feature that I've introduced recently, very recently, called Snapshot. What it does is, once you are connected to the remote runtime, then you'll be able to create a snapshot. That means it will capture the whole information at that point of time. And since it's already connected to the remote runtime, you can click on capture. So it's right now capturing. And it has been already captured. Now, so this is the remote runtime, remote workspace. So here I'm storing it in this. So this is the snapshot that I have captured right now. I'll put it here. So this is the JSON. And then what I can do is just minimize it for better visibility. Okay, you have to disconnect and start from the beginning. And then, yeah, snapshot, import, and then I provided in the downloads, JSON, so this is the one, open. So this is a snapshot. So this is how you'll be able to see all the information that I was shown earlier by just connecting, by monitoring the live runtime, and now you're doing the same thing by just importing the snapshot.
Let's just go to JDeploy, to where you can download it from.
Yeah. So you go to load the application, you go to OSGi.fx, and here you have the different options. The GitHub repo is here. Then you can use the download OSGi.fx button to be redirected to the place where you want to download it. So you can, all the installers are here available. And so this is always the updated one. So here, the moment you install it, you get the installer for the JDeploy. Once JDeploy knows about the configuration that I provided to the NPM. So because it already passed the metadata from it. And then the moment you have new releases and all, the application will be automatically updated.
Yeah, we shouldn't go too deep in it, but I think it's nice to see this has progressed a lot since I was trying to making executables for different platforms.
And for the agent part, you have to go to download agent, and then this OSGi.fx, this one. So this is the group ID artifact ID. That's why it looks pretty weird. But you click on it, and then you can download this jar. So OSGi.fx console agent jar, and then have it installed in the remote runtime, so that you'll be able to manage the remote runtime from the OSGi.fx application. Yeah, so that's pretty much it about the OSGi.fx.
Yeah, I'm very impressed. One question that will definitely pop up with the people I work with is security. Is there any protection against to make sure that this is not abused because you open a port? Are you using TLS or?
Not really right now, not really, but I have that in mind. So I'll provide more for the security, so that since I've done it for the development purpose right now, so not for the production, but still, yeah. So that's the reason I have not included any kind of security so far, but I have that on the roadmap.
I think that's very valid. That's I probably wouldn't have done that either. But it's definitely something that, because it looks so nice and you got so much information, people will come with that questions. With those questions. I think we already clearly overran the intended time frame. I will edit it, and I have to thank you, Amit. I will put some links in the presentation, and I'm pretty sure you will get some new customers for this